right, everybody, we're back with a brand new Cabral Concept. Can't wait to dive into today's show. I've been getting a lot of questions, and I think it's partly due to the time of the year that it is. People are looking to get into their best shape, totally understand it, and they're wondering if all of this information they've been hearing over the past few years on intermittent fasting is actually detrimental in them achieving their body transformation goals. So we're going to go through that today. We're going to talk about if this is your goal, is fasting detrimental, or more specifically, intermittent fasting, and that is muscle loss or muscle gain. So there has been rumors, and we're going to talk about those rumors here today, that those in the bodybuilding community are usually not individuals that partake in longer fasts or even longer intermittent fasts. And if you don't know what an intermittent fast is, simply it is 12 hours more in a row of not eating, essentially. So let's look at it another way. I'll say it simpler. Let's say you go 8 o'clock at night and you don't eat again until then 8:01 in the morning. You did a intermittent fast. That is 12 hours without eating. Some people are going 8 at night. Okay, then they go to 8 in the morning, that's 12 hours, and then they go another 4 hours until noon, that's 16 hours. So there are many people fasting overnight, 12 to 16 hours. I'm actually going to link up a whole category of shows in intermittent fasting because there are best times to fast and best times not to fast for your health, and actually skipping breakfast isn't necessarily the best way to do it. But that's a topic for another show that I've already recorded. So today I want to stay on topic, which is, does intermittent fasting cause muscle loss and therefore potentially slow your metabolism and slow your body transformation based goals? Okay, so let's go back to it. No, bodybuilders do not typically fast. I was participating again just at a low level in natural bodybuilding. That means I went to the gym when I was in college in my early 20s, and I tried to put on as much muscle as I could naturally. I wasn't competing in any shows. I don't want to, claim to be in that level of elite bodybuilders. I certainly was nowhere near there, but I trained like a bodybuilder. I ate like a bodybuilder. I was able to take my 5'8" frame and get to about 200 pounds. And so that's a good amount of weight. But I'll tell you this, if you are looking to put on as much muscle as possible, it is difficult to do that by fasting for an extended period of time. And that is because, simply put, it takes you out of an anabolic state. So if you're looking to stay in a state of natural anabolism, or even if you're using anabolic steroids, if you want to be able to fuel muscle growth, you want to make sure the amino acids are coming in and you keep mTOR levels, just called mTOR, levels elevated. And as a result, yes, autophagy and AMPK will stay a little bit lower. So is it as healthy to do over the long run? No, it is not. There is not a balance. It's more pushed towards anabolism, but it achieves a goal that individuals are looking for, which is to put on as much muscle as possible. And if that's your goal, intermittent fasting is not the best for you. However, what about your everyday individual that's looking to simply transform their body, get in great shape, and they maybe heard rumors now that intermittent fasting might hurt their metabolism as well? Well, let's look at the research. So the research has already been done. It's been done now for about a decade. There was a solid study called Prolonged Fasting Enhances Stem Cell Functionality but reduces skeletal muscle mass. So I'm going to link that up here today. I'll link up all the intermittent fasting shows, their category, and I'll link up the research. And so you can find that at stevencabral.com/3288. Okay, so here's what the research said, because there's a lot of pros and cons to this, and we're going to want to find balance. So let's figure out how to do that. So here's what the big study said. So the study demonstrated that prolonged fasting can enhance the regenerative potential of stem cells. So basically that says it's going to make healthier, stronger stem cells, which then aids in what? Well, it aids in the overall rejuvenation and repair of our body. Now, that should say, well, isn't that good for muscle cells? Let's find out. So by improving stem cells, which all of us want to do, and as we get older, we produce less healthy, strong ones, because if we can produce more and we can figure out a way to do this, well, then we reduce overall inflammation and can potentially fight off chronic-based dis-ease in the body, including cancer. But it allows cells to rejuvenate and repair all throughout the body. That includes the mitochondria, the immune cells, and much more. So one of the closest things we have to the fountain of youth. However, The study also showed that despite the boost in stem cells, prolonged fasting led to a reduction in skeletal muscle mass. So this was attributed to more of a catabolic state, the opposite of the anabolic state that happens as we consume more and more amino acids throughout the day, which is essentially protein, right? Protein breaks down into amino acids. That's why I've said before that the healthiest diet in the world isn't necessarily a high protein diet, but it is the best diet for body transformation. Like, make no mistake about it. Without a doubt, again, I like to stay unbiased. It is, right? That's a reason why, again, we used to do that in our practice and still help individuals, if that's their goal here today, for 2 decades, to do that. So how do you know if you might be pushing intermittent fasting for too long? And then I'm going to give you my balance at the end. Well, think about this. If your goal is adding muscle, are you able to adequately add muscle on a more like a quarterly rather than monthly basis? Meaning, like, the average person, unless you're untrained, isn't going to put on 10 to 15 pounds of muscle in a year. It's going to be really challenging once you've already put on your initial first year, 2 years, 3 years maximum or so of muscle. Now, there are ways to be able to do it. I'm not saying that you can't. A lot of people who put back on 20, 30 pounds of muscle, they had 20, 30 pounds of muscle previously, so it's easier for them their body to go back to that. But if you're talking like nascent, just new, novel, anabolic muscle that you're putting on, it's a little bit more challenging. But you can certainly put on pounds of muscle every single year. All right. So then first ask yourself, am I putting on muscle, right? So you have to be able to do a body fat caliper-based scan, and whether it's bioelectrical impedance, body fat calipers, all sorts of different scans you can do. And I'm not going to go into which one's better right now. I've got podcasts on that as well, the inaccuracies of calipers versus bioelectrical impedance versus hydrostatic weighing, etc. All right. So you want to ask yourself, am I able to put on muscle if that's your goal, if you're actually training for it, right? Because you want to be actually training using adaptation, so increasing reps, duration of sets, volume, weight, etc. In some way, there needs to be a specific adaptation to impose demand. In order to put on muscle, you can't just put on muscle, just hoping to put on muscle and lifting weights. It doesn't necessarily work that way. And there's obviously a lot of consistency involved as well. And then there's the eating part, right? Okay. So then ask yourself as well, are you losing muscle but putting on body fat and maintaining the same weight? There are many people that I've seen that maintain the same weight, but they're getting older, but they don't necessarily look the same. So what's going on there? Is it more inflammation, puffiness, losing muscle, adding body fat? Could be all three. It could be all 3, 4 of those. So it's something to contemplate. The way that you know that is simply by finding out your body fat and then being able to figure out what that is in terms of pounds, and then subtract that and you get your lean mass. Again, there are more advanced ways of doing it, but it's at least a place to start. Another easier way than this, you can ask yourself, am I losing strength? So the same exercises that I've always been able to do in some way, shape, or form, I feel like I'm getting weaker. All right, that could be a first sign that you're a little too catabolic. Another one is if you feel like you're just not making progress, like you feel like everything's becoming more difficult. Your overall recovery between workouts, the soreness that you feel, the shape of the body, if you just feel things are not moving in the right direction, you may be overdoing the fasting. So I want you to also keep in mind that when you are younger, so let's say mid-30s and below, the tipping point's anywhere in your 30s to early 40s. So sometimes it lasts a little bit longer for other individuals who are a little bit more pitta body type, easily put on muscle, etc. But let's just say when you're 35 and below, it's just easier for you to get away with not eating as regularly, or your metabolism's stronger, just everything works better, you have more reserves. So just kind of keep that in mind. The advice becomes even more relevant when you start to get into your later 30s, or you've been out of exercise for a while, or definitely in your 40s and beyond. And that is because you are now feeling the real effects of aging. So I've got lots of teachings on this at highperformancehealth.org, but it is part of what's called the triage theory on aging. And again, I have a podcast on that. We'll link that up here today as well. So just keep that in mind. You know, I was a very young nutritionist and personal trainer as well. I literally started at 17, 18 years old. And so even in my 20s, I didn't have the concept of what it was like to be 47, 57, 67 and beyond, right? And so I didn't get that. I didn't appreciate it as much, but it's difficult because you have no real frame of reference. You're working with clients. You don't necessarily understand how the body is able to repair or not repair as quickly when you're younger. All right. Part of that is stem cells, right? Okay, so now let's look at it. This becomes very detrimental and is most important when you're getting advice to do a 1 meal a day or a 20-hour or longer intermittent fast on a near daily basis. That is going to cause you to be in more of a catabolic state. Now, you may choose to be in a catabolic state for a specific reason, okay? And if you're under medical advice or a health practitioner's care, then I get it. You're going to follow their advice. But if we're talking about generalities, how to transform your body the best, find that balance between boosting your metabolism, putting it on muscle. Because remember, lean muscle burns more calories. It's going to, if you're looking for body transformation, give you the shape, and I'm using that in air quotes, that you're looking for, boost overall strength, mitochondria, et cetera. Like it's obviously, it's great for the body. We're not saying that you're going to put on 10 pounds of muscle. That's again, goes back to those myths out there that you're going to put on 10 pounds if you just start going to the gym of muscle, if you start going to the gym this month. That's not going to happen, right? And so what I want to share with you is this. Doing a 1 meal a day diet or a 20-hour fast or really anything over 16 hours is usually going to be detrimental, especially if it's on a near daily basis. Now, if it's the 5-2 diet where it's 2 days a week, you go very low, different story. I've talked about that on other shows. Again, I want to link that up for you here today because you can't cover every topic on one particular podcast. The way that I like to do it, teach one and then share other shows I've done previous to this. So what is then that sweet spot? Well, the sweet spot, this study included, seems to be the 12 to 16 hour window. It is enough time for most individuals to lower to healthy blood sugar levels. So that's important that we get there, right? Get the body into autophagy. Start with cellular cleanup and repair and rejuvenation, lower those AMPK or lower the mTOR levels, apologies, and allow the body then to be in a little bit more of a catabolic state. Then after 12 to 16 hours, we begin to then refeed the body. Now the body is getting those proteins, amino acids, etc., that now is going to dampen autophagy and start to increase mTOR for repair. Now, some individuals, based on body type, are going to trend more catabolic, more of that Vata body type or ectomorph, right? And those people who tend to put on a little bit more weight, like the Kapha or the endomorph versus the ecto, they can fast a little bit longer. They are naturally more anabolic. They have more mass on their body, and they easily tend towards putting on more mass, where other individuals tend to become thinner faster if they're not focused on their nutrition and their exercise. So understand those individuals, and I don't want to get too complicated here, they're not going to want to fast as long. They're typically going to become far too catabolic too quickly, whereas the others might be able to do up to that 16 hours. So some closer to 12, others closer to 16. Typically, if your goal is not weight loss, you want to be closer to the 12. If your goal is weight loss, you want to be closer to the 16. Not for everybody, because you also don't want to skip breakfast. I want to keep that for another show because in the long run, it's not necessarily complementary to your health. So that doesn't mean that you have to have breakfast at 7 a.m. Could start at 9, 10 a.m. But what you want to do then is start to get those more hours before midnight into a fasted state, 3 to 4 hours before you get to bed. And you're going to be able to reap all of these health benefits because of that. Now, obviously, all of this has to be bio-individualized, which is why it's great to work with an integrative health practitioner or an eco-life-based coach, and also to be able to run your own labs with at-home lab testing, whether it's your hormones test, which is your stress, mood, and metabolism test, or other labs to be able to find out that sweet spot for you. So what I'm going to do right now, lots of continuing education. I'm going to link up my podcast on how to build your own daily intermittent fast, what's right for you, your weekly, quarterly, and yearly, because remember, you can still enjoy longer fasts, 24 hours to maybe even 72 hours during certain periods throughout the year, and know it will not affect your muscle mass because you are not doing this chronically, as the study stated. You're doing this only every 12 weeks or so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to link up that show for the 4 types of fasts. And then any other shows that I might feel pertinent that will lead you then to your best body transformation results, but also a healthier way of nutrition, looking at food, fasting, and the balance that our body requires. Again, all those show notes will be at stephencabral.com/3288. Have an amazing day. I'll be back tomorrow with a brand new Cabral Concept. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure that you're getting our daily content, not missing out on anything functional medicine, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, living longer, stronger, and all of the most cutting-edge research. And if there's any topics you want to hear, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Take care.